Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this episode, we're going to do some board game banter and chat about some games. And we're going to wrap that up with some news. And Ryan, we got the reviews. What are you going to review?
I'm going to be reviewing Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenixborn.
It's like a fight fest. And I'm going to do some Pavlov's House. And I'm not talking about Ring the Bell and I'll salivate.
I was about to say, doesn't that ring a bell?
Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They're the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. Let's do some board game banter. And Ryan, what you been playing?
So the past couple of nights, my wife and I, after we put the kids to bed, have been really tired, and we, trying to decide what we're going to do. We usually mention like, oh, do you want to play a game? Do you want to watch some TV? Oh, we'll play a game, but what game do you want to play? Well, I don't want to learn anything new, and I don't want anything like really like complex, or I just want to play something that we really know. And so actually the past couple of nights we've played Seven Wonders Duel. Ooh. And a favorite of ours. It's a fantastic two-player only game that takes that Seven Wonders esque drafting, but takes it to kind of like the next level, where the cards are laid out in different formations, and some are hidden, some are revealed, so you can try to plan. And you can't take a card unless if it's fully revealed. Yeah, and you're doing the same thing, collecting your resources, and those resources are prerequisites for other cards. But the really fun part about Seven Wonders Duel is that it has 3 different win conditions. And 2 of those win conditions are by military strength. So if I collect enough military cards, there's kind of like a tug of war token that kind of pushes and comes back and forth. And so you can win by military victory. You can win by a science victory by collecting 6 different science symbols on the science cards over the course of the game. And if neither of those 2 things have been met at the end of 3 rounds, you just go to straight up points. Now, both of our games the past 2 nights the first game was a military victory and the other one was a science victory. And they were both by me. Oh. And my wife absolutely hated it. And she's like, why does this game have these other win conditions? Why can't it just be just straight up points? And because she was killing me in the points sector, I said, I need to try to win this game, because if it comes down to points, it's not even going to be close type of deal. But that's because when she's collecting some of the point cards, she's neglecting to buy those other cards, which keeps this kind of game in balance. That's why I really enjoy this game, because you have to think about, you can't let somebody run away with the science, or you can't let somebody run away with the military, because it's going to get out of hand by that third round type of deal.
Now, I've never played it before, but I've watched a lot of people play it, and it's kind of like not a seesaw, a one-way, but like a 3-way seesaw. That if one thing is out of balance, then everything just kind of turns over. Yeah. So, and then the past couple of nights we've played with the expansions. So the first night we actually played with the Pantheon expansion, which adds cool. Kind of like another phase. Some big like godlike cards that you can purchase starting in the second round, and
they do some really funky game breaking abilities and everything. And I actually had a power that allowed me to buy them for cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you actually claim one of these cards, when you draft them in the first round, you get to pick where they go on this scale. So if it's closer to you, it's cheap for you, but expensive for your opponent.
Yeah.
But I had this power that made things cheaper for me. So I was able to buy the cards that were farther away from me and cheap for Jen. And she hated that. Like, I was taking her stuff that she had planned that she was going to purchase, and I stuck them away from her. And then the other night we played with the Agora expansion, which kind of brings in a little bit of like an area control type thing. And whoever controls the certain seats in the Senate gets like a special little perk or a special little bonus. If you control so many, now I'm already forgetting, but if you control so many of them, that's another win condition now. It's a fourth win condition. If you control so many seats in the Senate, like you win the game as well.
And how is Jen with that one?
She hates that one too. That's just another thing to pay attention to. And what's supposed to be a simple game, Ryan.
Yeah.
I don't want to think at 10 o'clock at night.
So that won't be hitting the table soon.
Oh, we still love it. She accepts that it's part of the game, but she just doesn't like it because she always forgets to focus on those other things and just go straight for the points.
Well, you should remind her.
I do.
No, you're probably thinking, this is the only time I get to win.
Well, that's true. She schools me in pretty much everything else that we ever play. But Seven Wonders Duel, one of the great 2-player games. We've talked about it. I think I might actually do this in a future topic of 2-player games.
Yeah.
I think I might. Everybody should know what the number one is on that list.
I think.
Can I go an episode without mentioning Targi?
I think you mentioned Targi once or twice. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Well, I had the chance this week to play a few games, and once I saw this one hit the radar, pinged on my phone, and because you can't really find it too often, and that's the Manhattan Project: Energy Empires by Luke Laurie and Tom Jolly. And this one is and not that I have a lot of Luke Laurie games, but I follow a lot of his games, and he likes his worker placement, and I think he does a very good job when it comes to understanding how to manipulate worker placement. And but in this case, Energy Empire is basically you're representing countries that are trying to, and it's all victory points, right? But how you get those victory points is an interesting way through the idea of what type of energy and what type of kind of philosophy that your country is going to go through. And in doing so, like I said, it's worker placement, and every worker placement has the ability to get more workers. So you'll see a lot of the same mechanisms on this board where there's going to be places to get resources. There's going to be places to get money. There's going to be places to convert things. What is interesting about this game, though, is the timer of the game are pollution tokens that you eventually will acquire because you have to buy buildings. And the buildings are divided into 3 areas. It's the government market, the industry market, and the commerce market. And like any market, there's going to be buildings that are on the cheaper side, and as they slide down the market, the expensive side, and as they slide down the market, they get cheaper. So there's going to be competition for these buildings that you buy to put in your tableau, and these buildings themselves will have your own worker placement spots where you can get your own engine going, where you don't have to rely on the board's, let's say, generic worker placement slots. This game, the cool part about this game is that there's dice, because like I said, Energy Empire, you have to choose if you're going to go with green energy or if you're going to go with fossil fuel energy. And if you're going to go with fossil fuel energy, there's going to be waste products. And that comes back to this timer that as some buildings, once you build them, thematically speaking, will generate waste. So that's what starts to get these timer tokens. And every time that you clear a slot on this pollution track, on the bottom of it is an event card. And it's 6 rounds. The first 3 are events that positively enable the players. And then the last 3 are event cards that negatively impact the players. And it is. And you've got your own tableau that can, build points. And as you pull these pollution tokens off, you put them on your tableau and you have a air, land, and water track that you're trying not to pollute, because as clean as you can get it, you get victory points awarded for lack of pollution on your tableau. Bottom line, this is a very fun worker placement game. A lot of cool thought angles in it. Now, this is a 2016 game, and I think I'd mentioned this to you before, that it's a 2016 game. And as far as solo games go, 2016, there wasn't really much push into the development of the solo mode, right? It was burgeoning. I mean, most of the time it was try to get your highest score, right? This one, and I don't think this, is this an out of print game that I'm talking about? I'm not too sure.
I've seen it every now and then. Maybe people still have stock of it.
Okay. But I would say if this thing comes back or it gets republished, it could use a revamping on the solo mode. But I want to play this with multiple players, because it to me, it has that viticulture kind of bumping and excuse me, let me come here. And I could talk about how the energy works that you generate, because if somebody's in one spot, that's great. You can go there too. But as far as the elevation of your worker, you have to be higher. So you have to, if there's one worker, then you have to put an energy and your worker. Well, if another person comes, then you have to put 2 energy underneath in your worker. So you have to boost that energy to be able to do that turn. And that's where these energy dice come that allow you the ability not to be bamboozled out of certain choices. So this is
cool.
Yeah. So that's what I've been playing.
Luke Laurie is one of those designers now that have been on my radar, that if he's putting something out, I'm paying attention to, kind of like Alexander Pfister and Jamie Stegmaier type of deal.
Off the top, he's got Crypto. Is it Everdale? Cryo. Yeah.
Cryo.
Is there like
Whistle Mountain?
Yeah. Yes.
Whistle Mountain with Scott Caputo.
Yeah.
He did Dwellings of Eldervale.
That's what I was trying to.
Dwellings of Eldervale. Yeah. This one, and now I'm probably also forgetting one, but those other ones are great worker placement style games. And if you follow him on Twitter, he's been teasing his latest prototype thing that he's been dragging around and showing off to people and just from the glimpses of the pictures, I think, he's got me hooked.
Cool.
I don't know anything about it, but the prototype looks cool.
Cool. It's my favorite. Cool. That's all I can say.
That's all.
This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon.
Start us off with some, what you told me, that there's a controversy.
Well, I don't know how much controversy now when I'm thinking about how much controversy, but there was an app game that I had purchased a while ago. It was very well done. I really enjoyed playing it for what it was. Neuroshima Hex was in the App Store, and this is a game that you showed me at FallCon quite a while ago.
Beat me up.
A great tactile miniatures like game, but with cardboard chits, and it works 100% beautifully that way.
Portal Games.
And it was in the App Store. And then for a while, like, I mean, a long time, it just stopped working. And they were not supporting the game anymore.
Aww.
And Neuroshima Hex, put out by Portal Games. That's Ignacy Trzewiczek's company.
Yep.
And it was like, people are like, what happened to this game? Why are no one supporting this game? And then all of a sudden, just an announcement out of the blue saying, hey, guess what's coming back? Neuroshima Hex 3.0 back into the App Store. And everybody just went, excuse me, what? We didn't see this coming. And as of today, I just noticed that it has relaunched.
Oh.
And now all of my stuff that I had purchased in the previous edition but it's no longer there. All my previous stuff that I had purchased, and they are working on that, but it looks like that I might have to repurchase all of those other things, and like I have to repurchase the game again.
Right.
From what I can tell, it's a brand new implementation. They've cleaned up. Looks like the graphics are even better than before. They've probably modernized it to like the new cell phone, iPad era now that they have better graphics cards in them now and stuff like that. But Neuroshima Hex 3.0 is a fantastic two-player tactical strategic warlike game. They're asymmetrical factions that have their own troops and stuff like that. And
it's a pivot on a dime game. It's so much fun. Yeah,
it is so much fun. And I own the board game. I own the board game in all 13 expansions.
Man, you got hooked. You got hooked big time. Yeah, we came back from that and you're like, I'm getting all of the factions.
Well, somebody had a sale where it's like, get this and then get also the base game and 10 expansions for like what I don't even know what it was, like 50% of the cost. And
but you have to. Now you got to do it, right?
Now you got to do it. And then I hunted down the other expansions that weren't part of the bundle, and
because
good.
You got to complete.
See, that's another lunchtime game we can have.
Every
now and then, just bring in
the way you play against me. You can have multiple lunchtime games with that one. Hey, let's leave the crowdfunding for the last, and let's just quickly talk about what's been started up lately. And I've just following on social media, and I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready for this yet, but the convention seasons are starting.
Convention season is going forward.
Yeah.
And I don't worry. I don't think you're the only one in the hesitant state about attending these now, especially one of the big ones, Gen Con.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Like and Origins.
Like in Indianapolis there, from what I've gathered on social media, their COVID numbers are not fantastic.
I know.
And some crazy stat of only like 45% of the population's been vaccinated and 5,000 cases per day.
Yeah.
It's a hot. Now, a lot of people are going to be in different levels of comfort into this. Mm-hmm. So but even like you and I, we talk like we're fully vaccinated, and even us hesitantly thinking about like, oh man, I don't even like, we wanted to start up our own little kind of public get-togethers, and we're just like, maybe we'll just have to wait a little bit more.
Yeah, patience is. I mean, it's okay to be patient. It's okay to be patient, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've had lots of great conversations already about that convention season and how many publishers are not going
to
the conventions. And
what was the Covenant? Remember you listened to the
Team
podcast?
Covenant, and I listened to the Covenant podcast, and they were talking about like companies are in a unique position. Like there was no Gen Con, Origins, and everything last year.
Scientific research.
And they still churned out numbers. They made money last year, and they didn't have these extra expenses,
the overhead of
traveling to these conventions, paying for employees to go to these things and paying for their time and stuff like that. And they still managed. They had their online components, a little bit easier to manage.
Well, and
like that.
They pivoted right when they had to pivot, and I think they successfully did that.
And now they're in a position where there is going to be a physical convention.
Yeah.
And by not opting to go, are they still going to maintain that level of business? Like a lot of these people, they're still going to contribute to Gen Con, but on an online virtual format.
Yeah. It'd be the data, looking at the data, that would be interesting. And I think that's what you spoke of with those guys, because they come from educated backgrounds. And I think they're, you said that they have some pretty cool degrees. To me, that means do your homework. And I like this approach of comparative seasons. I mean, it's a unique situation. Take advantage of it. Yeah, absolutely. And
it works on the other side too. Like if you are a person that are comfortable going to these conventions, you're in a unique spot too, where like Gen Con's not going to have the 80, 90,000 people at it, but it's still probably I'm still going to say there's probably going to have like 30, 35,000 people at it. Like that's still a lot of people. That's still a rider game down in Regina.
You're just saying that number and I'm like,
yeah, right. But small publishers, I think they're chomping at the bit for getting to these conventions.
Access to these people.
Yeah, because you're not going to have to compete with Asmodee.
Yeah,
you're not going to have to compete with the big dogs, and your game can possibly stand out for 30,000 people.
Yeah. If now there's no way, considering like the statistics and what's going on, there's no way that I would go to a con of that size. But jokingly in my head is like, the only way I'd go is if you bubble wrap taped me. And I'd just be like bouncing around like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I need full FDA hazmat suit.
Yeah. I'll look like one of the workers on Monsters Inc. with the yellow suits.
I'm gonna play
checking this for you.
I'm gonna play a game with those like extended tongue tweezers.
Picking up your kids' like dirty clothes. Yeah. Cons, and I'm just quickly looking at the chat here, and there's a few indicators of people that are agreeing with this. That's like, no, thank you. We'll be patient and awesome because and
people in Saskatoon like still be patient. Like those game nights are going to come.
It'll happen.
They will happen. Yeah. We're still working on things. We just want to make sure that people are as safe as possible.
Yeah. Cause I mean, honestly, I can't wait for us to roll out our cardboard retreats again and have some organized plays and I mean, teachers, right?
Yeah. So
cool.
But these things are still going to happen. We're still going to get news of Gen Con online, Origins online, and we're still going to get the stuff. And we're also in a unique year too, where I don't know if there's going to be a lot of Christmas stock coming down the pipeline because of the shipping issues across the world. And
that's a topic we should have on another episode because that's a long discussion of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
let's go into some crowdfunding, and we talked about portal games. So let's start with on GameFound, which I'm seeing GameFound competing well with Kickstarter. But we can chat about that later.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. That might be a whole nother topic.
Yeah, Portal Games is putting out now. I'll explain to why I put this on here, but they're putting out a game called 11 Football Manager board game, and for us North Americans, that's soccer, which is the original football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Football, of course.
Yeah. So it's I'll just quickly read. 11 is a football manager game for 1 to 4 players. Your task is to manage and grow your own football club and outperform the other teams over the course of a season. You will hire staff, develop your stadium, sign up sponsors, transfer players, and play matches against against other clubs. As far as sport games go, I put this on here because, man, am I curious how they're going to pull this off. Right. Not curious, it's like, wow, this is an impossible task, but it's the part in me that wants to see a version of this because some people know that I have an elite level field lacrosse background. And if this works, in my head, I'm going, we need to have a field lacrosse version of this game, please. So that's where my curiosity is. And
I'm just going to back up for a second here. I'm going to grab something off the shelf that reminds me of.
He's getting to that age where he could throw his shoulder out too.
Blood Bowl, Team Manager, the card game. This kind of reminds me of that, where you're going to be kind of playing a game of American style football.
Yeah.
But it's all about the fans and getting people into your games and stuff like that.
This idea of developing your stadium and sponsors, that to me, that's a reminiscent of when I used to play Madden football, where you could get into that manager mode and you can, attribute some of your assets into sponsorship and upgrading your stadium to get more revenue. So I remember Madden, I forget what season or what year it was, had that add-on.
Right.
And I tried it. It was interesting, but to me, I thought, I'm playing Madden football to play Madden football, not to manage the team. It's not Excel spreadsheet, the video game, right? So,
Excel spreadsheet, the game. Now you got me hooked.
So yeah, that's where my curiosity lies with this one. So, what do you think?
Interesting. It's a very interesting concept. At the time of this recording, there is only 11 hours. Oh no, 11 hours to the campaign launches. Oh, so it's going to be fresh.
Yeah. And that was another reason too, because I thought, hey, when this
comes out,
drops, it'll be
perfect. I'm going to have to pay attention to this. I don't know if the theme's grabbing me, but the concept of the game seems pretty interesting.
Let's track it. Let's track this game.
You do that, and
I'll track the game.
It goes. I'm tracking other games. In the background.
Yeah, that's called an addiction. Do you want me to lead this one off? Because
you go for it, because I don't know anything about this one either.
This one, I mean, I spoke about in our other episode about entry level games, how I love my RPG and more specifically Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Awesome. But this one is Down We Go Infinite Edition by Tony from Plus One. I don't think I've heard of Tony Plus One. So Down We Go captures the heart of old school tabletop RPG flavor with simple core rules. This globally developed game includes procedures, adventures, hex crawls, and a new core setting. Venture to Infernopolis, a twisting city that hungers for gold, jewels, and blood to keep it running. So grab a torch, grab a blade, and seek your fortune as down we go. That introduction, I read that one, and that was what prompted me to go put this on there. And also too, from your perspective, that I remember you in university and when in high school, you said you used to do some RPG stuff. And to me, the artwork drew me in, and it's a very simplistic black background with white line artwork that has a pretty interesting mood to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it seems interesting.
And
I'm not a big RPGer and like anymore or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
which is why you're probably a really good metric, because then you can just like
the aesthetic seems really cool. I would like to see this aesthetic more in board games, actually, that just black and white and dark.
It's got, it reminds me of some Frank Miller stuff.
Oh, I love Frank Miller.
I
loved Sin
a
City.
lot of his groove was that monochromatic use of light and just maybe that's what pulled me into this, because it has some nostalgic feel with the nostalgic feel of RPGs. But I like that idea of, I'm always curious on how someone can use how they use like a mechanical structure to assist in the rollout of a story. So I'm going to go look into this because I haven't really looked at how much they're asking, but I mean, it's RPG, it's paper. So I might back this thing. I don't know. The curiosity's getting me.
Well, if anything, you get like the lore and the story and everything like that.
Yeah, cool. I mean, here's their tag: a rules light and old school flavored tabletop role playing game. That's sellable to me right there. Cool.
Hi. If you like the content we're creating and the podcast episodes we're producing, please leave a happy rating on the podcast platform that you use. This would be such a great gift and would also help others find our podcast when they search for Board Game Podcasts. And if you have the time, check out our new YouTube channel where we have new content every few days. Just search Bridge City Board Gamers on YouTube. Thanks, eh?
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan today.
Okay, here we go.
That's got to stay in. Can you please leave that in?
And welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to do some reviews, and I'm going to go straight to Ryan with this one because I'm still giggling from what happened before we started.
All right. So my game I'm going to review today was a no-brainer. It's been something I've been playing a lot of the past little while, over the past about 6 or 7 weeks or so. And that is going to be Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenixborn. Now, it's come out in 2021 here, but it was originally released way back in 2015. And I'm going to get into the story about it a little bit later. It's published here by Plaid Hat Games and designed by Isaac Vega. Artists, it's a team of artists by Thander Lin, David Richards, and Fernanda Suarez. Now, Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn. I got to read the description here on BGG.
I love reading this. Yeah,
it's fairly epic in scale.
The publisher put work into this. We got to read it.
So, in Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn, a 2-player expandable card game, players take on the roles of Phoenixborns, demigods, and protectors of this world. These characters are the great saviors of their civilizations. Before they came into existence, the humans were plagued by monsters like chimeras that took away their lands and forced them to live in walled-off cities. When the Phoenixborns came, they fought off the chimeras and freed the lands for humans to take over once again. But the time of peace was short-lived. The prophecy arose that if one Phoenixborn was able to absorb enough ashes of the others, they would ascend into full gods, taking mastery over this world. This, as well as humans' greed for land, fueled the War of Ashes. The great cities now fight amongst each other, each one of them with a Phoenixborn at its helm, and you will decide who will rise and who will fall to ashes. Ashes Reborn is now here. So, like it said, it is this customizable card game. Now, there is a core box of Ashes Reborn that you can buy, and it comes with 6 fully built Phoenixborn decks of cards. Now, a deck of cards consists of 30 cards, and these pre-built ones come with 10 cards of 3 copies each. Now, what you're doing, and this is kind of like the fun part about Ashes. It is a very, I was a Magic the Gathering player way back in the day, and I have always dabbled in these dueling card type games. Ashes has got one of the simplest systems for it that I've ever seen. Now, what you're doing is on your turn, you're going to take a main action, and then you may do a side action, and you can do them in either order. Mm-hmm. Now, your main action is either play a card, fight, or pass. You have to do one of those 3 things on your turn. And then your side actions are manipulating dice. I haven't talked about dice yet, but dice are your magic in this game. Yeah. So like games like Magic the Gathering, you have to have cards in your deck, and you have to draw them in order to play them out so that you can play your cards. All of your cards in Ashes will have some sort of dice cost. And there's 3 levels to the dice. There's basic, there's your class, and then there's your power. And there's only one side of the dice that is your power. Your really, really powerful effects need power dice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of your side actions is to meditate. And this is a really neat thing because at the beginning of the round, you roll the dice and you get what you get. What my son said? You get what you get and you don't get upset. Well, in this game, I get very upset if I roll badly. And like any other game with dice, if you roll badly, you're going to get upset. Now, here's where the meditate action is going to come into play. If I meditate, I have to either discard cards off the top of my deck, discard cards from my hand, or discard cards that are in play. And for every card that I discard in this way, I can change one of my dice to any side that I want. So I'm mitigating that luckness, but I do have to take a side action in order to do it. Now, a lot of other cards are going to have side actions associated with them, and there's a whole schwackload of abilities that you can have in this game. And essentially, it's this back and forth. There's different types of cards. There's spell cards, and your Phoenixborn, whoever they are going to dictate how many spell cards you can actually have on the field. They also have a battlefield number, and that is how many units you can control in, like, say, fights and stuff like that. So a Phoenixborn might have a battlefield of 6, but a spell board of 3.
Yeah.
Whereas another Phoenixborn could have a totally reversed. Lots of spells, not so many units. And every one of them is ever so unique in their play styles.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up aggressive, or you can mill your opponents like out of their deck and stuff like that. Lots of different things going on. But the core concept is that on your turn, you take a main action and you may take a side action. I'm just going to leave it at that for the game mechanics because this is a dueling card game. A lot of the intricacies come in that card play.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to get into some of my opinions, the ins and outs. Oh, I didn't actually get into like how I actually win the game. You win the game by knocking your opponent's life down to 0.
Yeah.
You fight them down.
It's a slugfest.
There's actually a kind of cool thing is that once your deck is run out of cards, like one of the things you have to do at the beginning of your turn is draw up to 5 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've run out of cards, and for every card you cannot add to 5, you actually have to take a life. So once you've ran out of cards, the opponent has to start taking life.
Yeah. You start tanking.
Okay. Box art. It's your standard Ticket to Ride size box, actually. There's a lot of room for the storage of the components, and the art on it is actually very vibrant and very this version. Oh, I guess I can get into the different versions. Like there's one that came out in 2015, still stellar artwork. This one just takes it up to 11 now. Like the artwork is highly enhanced, a lot more play with the colors and bringing it to the forefront here. So the box, and I see why they do this. It's a card game.
Yeah.
It's got to stand out on the shelf. It's got to stand with all the other board games.
Yeah.
I see why, like they're trying to stick with the board game concept, but they could have released this as a card game in card game size boxes, 100%. But I digress. Components in this game, fantastic. Custom dice with their own, like every set of dice, like there's different styles of dice, and that's your different styles of magic. And they all have their own symbols on them, and they're all custom for that. So, and they're nice weighted, they're very vibrant. And the cards, and the rest of the game is all cards.
Yeah.
And they're great, and they're great quality. They're fantastic quality, very easy to read. Everything's laid out very, very nicely. The rule book. I now hold in my hand here the 1.5 edition of the rule book. It boasts 28 pages of small pages and very large text. So it is what it is. 28 pages, But a lot of it is like, oh, deck building. How do
Yeah.
you build your decks?
Yeah.
Oh, drafting. Here's some different rules. If I were to actually look at this for actual gameplay content, we're probably looking at maybe 10 pages of text. And
Well,
it's
and that's
not hard.
Yeah, and if you're experienced with these kind of games, you just kind of
Even
slide
if you're
into
not,
it.
even if you're not experienced with these types of games, this is a very easy read. And it outlines things very explicitly, lots of examples of what's going on. So if you are not a card game player, you can actually pick this game up really I would say really quite easily.
Oh, right on.
The game system, it's that dueling card game where it is, I have a deck of cards, you have a deck of cards. We are going to fight each other to the best of our abilities until somebody comes down. Uniqueness. This game has tons of uniqueness to it. And that's why actually I've started to really fall in love with this type of game. Here's one unique thing. In every other dueling card game, you shuffle up your cards at the beginning of the game, and then you deal yourself out your deck of your hand of cards. You look at them, you get a mulligan, discard some things, redraw things. The opening hand is random. Ashes Reborn, the opening hand is not random. You actually get to choose your starting 5 cards, and they call it the first 5. So right out of the gate, you are not going to be screwed by random card draw. You get to pick the engine you start your game with. And that's actually very important too, based on the matchups you're going to have. If I know that I'm going to be going against an aggressive Phoenixborn, I might need to start off my game a little bit more defensive.
Yeah.
Or I just have a plan.
Yeah.
I know how my deck is supposed to run. I'm going to get it going right off the get-go. Fantastic. Dice are the magic. That's another really unique thing about this, in that I can easily manipulate the dice for how I want them. You don't see that in a game. And then also the simplicity of the turn structure.
Yeah.
Take a main action, maybe take a side action. That's it.
Yeah.
And then what I can do with my units, well, you're either fighting your Phoenixborn or you're fighting a unit.
Yeah.
It's so clean.
And like you said, the card does a good job at dictating what its power is, what its function is. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a counterpoint to that. Some of these cards have lots of text on them. So if you're not familiar with the cards, you will spend the first time playing through. If it's the first time you're incorporating that card, you're going to be reading it. Rob from the Meeple Dungeon and I have been streaming this game. There's 6 games of it right now on our YouTube channel. Lots of the games, some people have mentioned that sometimes it seems like we are frozen in time. And that's because we're actually sitting there, we're reading our cards.
Yeah. A little bit of mouth breathing.
Trying to figure out what they exactly do. Now, that's just going to come with experience. Once you figure out what the keywords do, you're off to the races.
Yeah.
But it is going to take some time to get familiar with those keywords. Because there's lots of different keywords in this game. So that was connecting. Man, are the spells that you can cast on your players very thematic in what they do, and your allies are very thematic to what I would think that like a big like I can summon a dinosaur, and of course that dinosaur is going to be a tank. Like it's got big stats, and it's got so stuff like that. It is connecting. I do feel like we are all playing, like our Phoenixborns are very quite different in the magics that they control and the spells that they're able to do. Like I was playing a guy, his card said choke. And so it was literally, I'm imagining this guy force choking this other guy. He's exhausting the guy, dealing some damage at the same time, like stuff like that. It really, really quite cool if the cards can actually connect to what you're actually doing. Okay, I'm talking a lot about this game and I'm talking very positively. And I know I have not played this as much as maybe some of my other card games that I really, really enjoy. But I think this one is definitely one of the best dueling card games that are out there. And it's so sad that you don't hear about it talked about.
Well, good that you guys are playing it.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of the history of behind it too, because it was one of Plaid Hat's going to be one of their. It was boasting that it was going to be like one of their evergreen titles, the thing that's going to keep Plaid Hat going over and over and over again. And then Asmodee came around and acquired Plaid Hat Games.
Yeah.
And this was one of the games that was on the chopping block. It was not going to get supported anymore. And it had a huge following fan base. Now, many years later, owner of Plaid Hat, I'm forgetting his name right now, I think his name is Colby, reacquired the rights to some of his games from Asmodee.
Mm-hmm.
And Ashes Reborn was one of those things. I think it was a passion project.
Yeah.
And so they brought it back as a subscription service. They teamed up with Team Covenant, the Covenant cast that I like to talk about. Yeah. And they said, if we can get so many people to subscribe to this game, it's not Kickstarter. Yeah. We just get so many people interested that they're going to purchase this game, we will reprint it. And not only reprinted, Isaac decided to go back and he rebalanced. A lot of people were complaining about the balance of the original game. Mm-hmm. So he rebalanced 40% of the existing card pool. Wow. So he redesigned. And I can't imagine what that game looked like before, because this one is fantastic. Everything is so tight, minus some of the games that we played on stream were quite one-sided. A lot of our games are very, very tight and very close. But we have discovered that some of the pre-constructed decks, some are definitely way better than others. And there's definitely one-sided matchups that we didn't know about. But you look at our stream to figure out what some of those matchups were.
And that's a cool thing, is that you can go back and you can learn, right? So
yeah,
kudos to you guys.
Yeah, so I'm in love with this game. And I can't imagine, like, I haven't even played with the constructed format. And apparently that is where this game is beautiful.
It's fun,
because there's no like set type of deck. Any card that's been released for this game can be put into any deck.
Oh, it's like sandbox that wide open. Cool.
Yeah. And as long as you have the dice in order to pay for the cards, that's the thing about it too. So a lot of the games you'll see on the stream, we've either played with one colored dice or two colors of dice, but you could have 5 different colors of dice based off the cards that you've put into your deck. So I can't imagine what those decks look like, because I get AP when I only had 2 different colors to manage.
Yeah.
I really like the monocolor decks because there's no thinking of the resources. So in the end all be all, Ashes Reborn is literally its name. It is a game that died and has now come back to life. And I really, really hope people can discover it again, because if you enjoy Magic the Gathering and you like dueling type card games, you need to check out Ashes.
Cool.
It is by far the smoothest implementation of a game. A lot of people say it's chess with cards. It is so tactile back and forth and waiting for your opponent to make the one mistake.
Yeah.
And as soon as somebody makes the one mistake, that is the opening. And you better take it, because it's coming back to your opponent the next turn, and they've probably figured it out.
Should I ask you the shelf question yet?
Oh, this is top shelf. 100%. This game is going nowhere because it is fantastic.
Right on.
I can kick a lot of other competitive card games to the curb because of this game. Simplicity is the main factor, and there's so much depth. So much depth in the interactions of the cards and the combos that you can build.
Cool.
I just played on stream a mill deck. I saw Becca Scott today on Twitter say, "Hey, if you're that type of player that plays mill decks, I hate you." And then Rob tagged me in it. I'm like, because I'm the mill guy. I'm a blue Magic player, the guy that everybody hates. So,
all right.
Oh, yeah. So it's so much fun. I'm in a euphoric moment right now. This episode is proudly supported by the amazing team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge right here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape's escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team, ensuring their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe.
As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Game Lounge, they believe that life is more fun when you play games.
Talking about
back
this.
and have this kind of like, endorphin rush. Mine's kind of, well, you know what? Mine's not a dueling game, but it's kind of a dueling solo thing. And I found this was through Board Game Oracle. I keep talking about this. That's the website that'll find you the game that there's one copy in all of Canada. And it's kind of felt like this. And I'm going to talk about Pavlov's House, 2018, designed by David Thompson of the Undaunted series and War Chest, published by Dan Versen Games or DVG, and it is 1 to 3 players. But you know what? This is a solo game. Plays 60 to 75 minutes. If you're me and you play poorly, sometimes that's 25 minutes. It's a 12 and up, so there's some complexity to it, but it's not. Don't be. It basically, this is the Battle of Stalingrad. It's a war game, but don't be intimidated by the idea of the war game. This is really accessible. As we like to do in our reviews, we like to break it down. And I just gave you the details, and I'm going to go into the overview and the nuts and bolts here. And in doing so, we love as Ryan had done. The publishers do such a great job writing these intros and these overviews that we're just going to read them. So in this one, in Pavlov's House, you take control of the valiant defenders of a Soviet strongpoint in Stalingrad as they hold out against constant German attacks for almost 2 months. You also control the key leaders throughout the Soviet 62nd Army that made the defense of Pavlov's House possible. Object of the game, the goal of Pavlov's House, is to last until the defenders of Pavlov's House are tasked with storming a key German strongpoint during the Battle of Stalingrad. In the game, this is depicted by playing through a deck of cards representing elements of the German 6th Army. And the introduction says, Pavlov's House was a fortified apartment building used as a strong point by the Soviet 62nd Army during the pivotal Battle of Stalingrad in World War II. Soviet defenders, primarily from the 7th Rifle Company and 3rd Machine Gun Company, 3rd Rifle Battalion, 42nd Guards Rifle Regiment of the 13th Guard Division, held out for almost 2 months from a constant German assault. The building's name was drawn from Yakov Pavlov, a sergeant who led the initial storm group assault that resulted in the capture of the building from the Germans. The story of Pavlov's House was a key piece of Soviet propaganda and was used as a symbol of the incredible resistance of Soviet forces during the Battle of Stalingrad. Yay! As a history teacher, I immediately sought this game out, and being a solo player, I doubled down that sought this game out part. Let's get into the parts of the overview nuts and bolts is the mechanisms. So what do? They talk about what you have are 2 different decks of cards. Now the board is divided into 3 areas, and it's interesting that it goes from right to left rather than left to right, like we would read a book. But it starts from macro to micro. So on the right-hand side of the board is the zones or areas that are going to be bombed, the support areas of the Soviets that are going to be bombed by the Germans. And there's like artillery, there's mortar, there are communication lines. And in that part of the board is one of the elements of how this game will end, is if a certain target is destroyed twice, game's over. That's one of the ways you can lose at this game. In that phase, you grab what's called the Soviet deck, and in that deck are the actions that you can perform. And typically you have 3, you deal yourself 4 cards, and the card is divided top and bottom of the actions that you can take that are in the different zones of the right-handed side of support. So in that, you can decide if you're going to remove some disturbance tokens, which are kind of like bombing marks. And those bombing marks, if you don't use one of those options in the card selection to start removing these tokens, as it bombs, if let's say target 11 already has a disruption token, then you keep going up and find the next empty one. And the last, I think, is spot 18, because you roll, when it's getting bombed, you roll 3d6. So spot 18 is that endpoint where you have to protect. So if you ignore the removal of these disturbance tokens, you're going to railway, stuff in your game into a crash at the end. So there's that delicate balance of that. There's also the delicate balance of, when do you put more artillery on for trying to shoot down these bombers that are trying to drop disruption tokens? When are you going to put mortars that will help support the next phase, which is the central part of the board, which is called the German deck, or where you have 6 tracks that are coincidentally representative of a D6 roll when the infantry and armor are coming out. And it's basically 6 on 3 sides of the building. You're getting attacked by left side has 1 and 2, and the top side has 3, 4, 5, and the right side has 6. And these tracks are what's going to get populated with, like I said, artillery and armor. As this huge, massive deck of, I think, about 150 cards, you have to survive that deck. And wow, that is difficult. Okay. So that being said, you have this assault, this constant assault of like 2 months worth of assault. Coming onto Pavlov's house, we shift over to the far left side of the board, which is the inside of the house, with the soldier tokens that you're moving around into different positions on the different 3 sides of the house. And these soldiers range from very generic shoot once kind of person, or you have a machine gunner's nest, or you have an armored division's a nest where you're able to fire on tanks. And it's all dice roll. There's a lot of probability chance. And I'm usually not a big fan of probability and chance, but thematically speaking, this is okay. This makes sense. This is, I mean, there's a lot of times where I'll roll it. The famous sniper from the Soviets is Chekhov, and it's not that Star Trek guy. But he is the most powerful sniper on the board. And when he shoots, he rolls 4 dice. And how it works is the German token has a defense value that you're trying to beat on a D6. If you can meet it, you beat it, kind of thing. And with Chekhov, he's so good, he gets 4 rolls. But if you know me, I'm a D&D party's best friend because I'm a DM who rolls a lot of 1s. So, yeah, so there's that part. But I mean, yeah, that's that frenetic, energy that is this thematically believable with that randomness roll. Moving on. So how do you win this game? You basically survive the deck, and there is a point system for every German infantry or armored division left on the tracks is minus a certain amount of points. In this whole onslaught of German pressure coming, you're also in a situation where you're going to do little kind of sorties at night where you get to, I mean, they just didn't stay in the house. They had missions to go and recapture certain points in Stalingrad, which is representative in intervals of these cards where you go and do a storm group. And it's basically that internal house objective going, okay, you, and you, and you're going to hit that building and you're going to go and try and take it out. and you send these individuals out. They all represent a dice value. You have to roll against a certain defense value. And if you do, you get the victory points. And at the end of the game, there is a mastery level, right? Okay, first of all, if you can finish the game and survive to the end of the deck, then you get to do your point score and compare it to a mastery level. But wait, not done yet. If this game isn't hard enough at a base level, there's a couple variations. There's an operational deck, which I think helps out the Russian side, because it's one of those things where at a certain point, if you want to sacrifice these resources that will leave the game completely, you can get these victory points. And while this card's in play, it can't disrupt certain things. So that, I think that's more of a balancing factor. If you're losing too much at the base game, put the operational deck in, because it'll save some of those bombing runs affecting you traumatically. Now, that being said, there's also what's called a tactics deck, which on each turn, because it's basically rinse and repeat. You do the Soviet deck, you do the German deck, and then you do the Pavlov's house. Then you go back to the beginning, take 4 cards, decide which ones you're going to do for your actions. I think already you know where I'm going with my opinion of this one. So opinions, we always like to do some outside in and the box art. I'm going to quickly show people who are watching, but this is what the box art looks like. At Pavlov's house, once you start reading it, the Battle of Stalingrad, and once you understand that it's people being protected inside a house, the blasted out brick is so thematically and visually connected to what's going on, and also the concrete face of the soldier is very reflective of the angular and rough art style of that era. So I think just those two subtle choices of imagery completely draw me and convince me that, yeah, I know what I'm getting into. And then, of course, a black background with red letters. Well, that I mean that's like, war game graphics 101. So yes, the box art is awesome. The components, pretty straightforward. David Thompson is awesome when it comes to understanding that the first important thing about the game is the game, the content, the how it plays. So there's no cluttering of, oh, I want this big, awesome miniature. No, these are chits, round tokens, and decks of cards that, Ryan, you'll be happy to know, after game 1, I sleeved them all.
Holy crap, that is 2 games I've played with you now that are sleeved.
Over 200 cards sleeved.
Turning,
and for people who know, that's like sit down because, whew, really? LePage sleeved some cards. Okay. The components, they're great. I mean, they are what they are, and their purpose is to make the game work, and they do a wonderful job. The rule book is, it's pretty, I mean, white background, awesome. A dark text, very good displays of cards. Like overly large. I'm thinking if it's a war game, it's old guys like me playing, and there's no kind of like holding this 6 feet away to read it. It's right in your face. It's awesome. As far as the formatting of the rule book goes, brilliant. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a cleaner, and when I mean clean, I don't mean the game itself, but I mean my understanding of the rules. There was in no moment in this whole book was I in a gray area of understanding what they meant. So good on that. The game system and the game style. This is like one of those video games where it's like, I just want to clear another level. I just want to clear another level. Okay, one more level. Okay, one more level. Right? That whole cycle of you start on your Soviet deck, you pick what you want to do. That affects how the German deck comes out, and then the Pavlov's house is fixing all that little, micro stuff, and then back to this one. Okay, we'll do that again. Okay, back to the beginning again, and it is such an addictive cycle that has such imperative of what I'm trying to do. Are these cards going to allow me to have the soldiers in the house accomplish what they need? Oh man, I need this card, because if I don't get this card, I can't put this defense out. And right, there's just that ratcheting up every round. It's awesome. The unique mechanism, we always like to talk about unique mechanisms. And I think this whole game is unique in the fact that at any moment did I realize that I was playing a solo game. I was so dialed into, like as I just described, it was just, once I got on that track, it was, I'm not stopping until this deck stops, and I can't. Even my children are like, Dad, eyes here, Dad, over here, eyes here, right? So that's yeah, crazy. I was so compelled by the system into what the game was trying to do. So yeah, I think that whole right to left is really cool. And the idea, you know what, that's the unique thing. The right to left and the idea of we're going to go from a wide angle lens down to a close up, and then we're going to pop out again. Wide angle lens down to a close up. Does this all connect? Absolutely. Is it follow identically the historical pattern? No, but you do understand what it took for them to hang out for 2 months, and there was loss of life, there was trauma, there was, Al and I keep talking about Al as a good friend of mine who's another history teacher. We always are trying to find these games that allow enough simulation and experiential learning for them to either be compelled to learn more about it, or to actually have a context of understanding, so that any other relatable event, they have this repertoire of knowledge that they can base it off of. So yeah, I think it does a fantastic job. So kudos to David Thompson for doing some great research. And the tokens, the Soviet tokens, are all individuals as best as historically represented. So my conclusions, I'm going to keep this nice and simple and straightforward, is this is one of those games that you get exactly what you expect and more. I did my research. I went and found this game out. I played it and was so surprised at the fact that I think I played 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
And a good thing it was on the weekend, because it was one of those, it's 2 a.m, I should go to bed. Wait, one more turn. No, wait, one more turn. Right. So, yeah, this is top shelf, all the way top shelf. So
interesting.
That being said, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you're not a big history war game guy.
Yeah, nope.
But
this doesn't sound like my wheelhouse at all.
But was there anything in there that you went, okay, that's an interesting track being manipulated by this, by that? So as far as the mechanics go.
I probably won't play this.
so
this is not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see how passionate you were talking about it. This is a Norm LePage game, and this right through and through.
And this vice versa, when you're doing Ashes, I'm like, I like my card game sometimes, but you're just like froth. So
yeah, so I like the theme of this episode was that we each picked games that neither of us like. We're like,
yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna run out and get that one. But honestly though, watching Rob and you do your Ashes stuff, I didn't miss an episode, and I was dialed in. So yes to that.
Spectator sport.
Yeah. So that's for me, Pavlov's house.
Maybe I just have to actually like see the game being played. Maybe there's got to be videos out there.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think I might have to do one as well because I think you would be compelled by the puzzle. By the puzzle that is like tick, 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 and it gets louder. And it's like a drip that keeps getting louder and faster, and you don't know how to turn it off.
Oh, it's the telltale heart all over again.
So this definitely, if anything that you heard about what I had to say about this game appeals to you, this is part of a series, and I think he's got another one that's coming out just right away soon. So we'll let you know that. And that being said, let's wrap this.
Wow, did we have two drastically different games?
Oh yeah, the pendulum swung big time.
But in both games are like so niche.
Oh yeah,
into the hobby.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? If we both had the same taste, then we'd be pretty
Oh, this would be a boring show.
A one-note podcast. It's like
this show would be even more boring than it actually is.
And that note would be demolished. With that dad joke being delivered, I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan. Let's get ready to rumble.
And we'll catch you later.
This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and we are Bridge City Board Gamers. And you can find us on Facebook at Bridge City Board Gamers Saskatoon. You can find us on YouTube, Bridge City Board Gamers. We are also on Twitter at BC Board Gamers. And of course, Board Game Geek Guild number 3039.